If everything feels urgent, you may not have a time problem. It's possible that you have a clarity problem. You see, most leaders are not failing because they're lazy. A lot of leaders fail because they can't distinguish between what is loud and what actually matters. And if you don't decide what's important, urgency will decide it for you. But today, I want to give you a simple framework that can change how you lead at any level. And the person who came up with it has led through wars, has led a country, and has led through crisis. So I can guarantee you that it works.
Liberty-loving people everywhere. March with you.
By the way, if you're new here, I'm Tyree. I'm a husband, a father, a Christian, and an Army officer who's been managing teams that are both big and small. Now, I'll be honest, I haven't led perfectly. I've definitely failed, I've had to adjust, and I've definitely grown along the way. But I want to give you the lessons that I've learned so you don't have to learn the hard way. So, if you're interested in that, make sure to hit subscribe, but let's get into it. So today we're going to talk about the Eisenhower Decision Matrix. What the Eisenhower Decision Matrix is a simple framework for prioritizing tasks based on two different variables, urgency and importance. It forces you to separate what feels pressing from what actually matters. It was created by President Dwight D. Eisenhower, who was also a 5-star general. He once famously said, "What is important is seldom urgent, and what is urgent is seldom important." He led in war and in the presidency. He understood that reacting to noise destroys your strategic focus. So how did he do it? It's broken up into 4 quadrants. Now split that into 4 boxes. Across the top, you're gonna have 2 labels, urgent and not urgent. Now along the side, you're gonna have 2 more labels, important and not important. And now you have the 4 categories. So let's break them down. The first category, the most important, is the urgent and important. This is the do category. These are the crises, the deadlines. These are the fires that must be accomplished. Some of the examples might be a brief that's due today, maybe a safety issue, a personal emergency or an emergency with an employee, a failing system that is going to impact your operations. All of the things that fit into this category is you have to handle these immediately. But here's the key. If your life is constantly in this quadrant, you might be leading reactively. And we may need to talk more about how to delegate and how to plan looking into the future. So now let's go into category 2. This is where you're gonna have not urgent and important. For these tasks, you need to schedule. This is where the most important part of leadership actually is. This is where long-term planning exists, training development, relationship building, even your own personal growth. These are the things that enable you to have strategic thinking and even sometimes preparing for your own replacement. These tasks are the ones that don't scream, but they shape the future of yourself and your organization. Great leaders understand that this time has to be protected. And this is where most people neglect this box. And then when they do, they always have to pay for it later. Now the third box we need to talk about is the urgent and not important. For these tasks, these are the ones you want to put into the delegate category. These are the ones that feel loud, but they don't require you. So these are typically going to be interruptions, sometimes going to be emails, maybe it's routine approvals. A lot of the times they're just going to be admin tasks that others can handle. And if you don't learn to delegate these, you're going to become the bottleneck. Subordinates need to understand these too, because they must develop a judgment about what requires escalation. You need to help your subordinates understand what needs to be brought up to your category, and you need to understand what things you can delegate to them. There's a whole article about this talking about taking the monkey off your back, and I'll make a video about that soon. So make sure to check out the link down below. But the 4th category, this is one of the most dangerous ones that leaders can spend their time in. These are going to be the not urgent and not important. These are the time wasters, the scrolling, the meetings without purpose, and a lot of times it's just going to be the office drama.
It's over. We are screwed.
They're unnecessary, and they are the things that really can drain leaders. Whenever you get the chance and you find a task in this category, delete it. You'll thank yourself later. But now that you have the framework, how do you actually apply it to your life? So the first thing I would tell you to do is list every task that you currently have on your plate. And then what I want you to do is force rank them into one of the 4 quadrants. Now remember, when you have those tasks that you need to delegate, make sure you're putting the right person on the task. When you have the ones you need to schedule, think about how far out do you have and how much time is this going to actually need. And when you see something in that quadrant 4, it's going to be hard at first, but I'm telling you, delete it. Even don't do it and see what happens, because you'll realize a lot of these are just trivial things that are not important. Now, this exercise we just went through, this isn't just for leaders, this is for subordinates as well. When I was a commander, I talked through all my executive officers and my platoon leaders do the same thing, because this is important for everyone who has tasks to accomplish. And here's why. So the first thing is, it actually helps you build strategic thinking. Junior leaders often confuse activity with impact. But this matrix helps teach them to ask what is actually important and what is just loud. And that question can change their careers and change their effectiveness. The second thing that it does is that it helps prevent burnout for any level. A lot of burnout isn't from volume, it's from living in this perpetual sense of urgency. Leaders who never invest in the Quadrant 2, they end up being exhausted and being behind. The third thing that's important about this is that it develops subordinate judgment. When you teach your team about this model, they stop escalating things immediately. They start to learn discernment, and that is a certain maturity that every leader needs from the subordinates in their team. And number 4, it protects what actually matters: your family, your character, your preparation, and long-term mission success. Those who are constantly living from urgency to urgency are those who don't properly allocate times to what's truly important, and that can become a trap. And all of this brings me back to my original claim. If everything feels urgent, you don't actually have a time management problem. You might actually have a clarity problem. The Eisenhower Matrix isn't just about productivity, it's about protecting what matters most before it becomes a crisis. Now, if you learned something in this video or you found it useful, please consider subscribing. And if you want to learn some more leadership tips, ideas, or other things that just may interest you, feel free to check out one of these videos and subscribe down below. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and if you ever have any questions, leave me in the email in the description. God bless and peace.